if video stores still existed, that they would have an immense problem in working out which category to put this film in, you know, because it's drama, there's tragedy, there's comedy, you know, who knows which category it really goes in, but it shows just how much, how very human it is. And talking about the physical, you know, obviously it's not the most important thing, you know, the heart and the mind is really what tells the story, but, you know, I look at you now and I see your physicality and it tells me something about who you are, and you look at me and we look around and it tells you something. And when you've only got 2 hours to introduce a character, first impressions vitally important. And so the physicality is enormously important, and that it gives you the first impression, no words having to be spoken about who this man is. And so, and I just consider myself to be so bloody fortunate to do the job that I do, that I think, well, why start working just on the first day that you turn up? You know, if you can, start working months ahead of time. And I was so charmed by the real Mel Weinberg, who Irv is based upon. And the fact that he wasn't a smooth, vain operator, which I expected him to be, that I just felt it had to be that way. You know?
You know, we both, David and I, had the opportunity to work with Jennifer on Silver Linings Playbook, and we were sort of amazed at this creature's ability to be a sort of young girl and this sort of very wise older person at the same time, and an effortless way of being on set and in the scene, and just how just talent drips off of her.
It's like doing drugs, because, you know, he's described it as a waking dream. That's why I don't like to call cut, because once we get going, it's like you're in a dream, or Jennifer has described it as like being high, and I don't want to interrupt that. You know, it's like something is happening where everybody's over in that other world. And people call these movies a comedy. I don't know. I never thought of it as a comedy. Because to us, it's just committing to the characters so completely that humans, are either heartbreaking or funny. They just are.
You know, we'd worked together and he'd said, you know, you don't act from the ears up, you act from the fucking feet up, don't you? And so that became a part that we used as a line in the film, you know, that it has to be from the feet up. You know, meaning in its entirety. You know, you don't do it by halves whatsoever. And then back to the question about the hair. For me, it was so unexpected to see this con artist having such an unconvincing con on his head, and that he was so brilliant at what he did, but so terrible at what he did on top of his head, that there was a great juxtaposition in it.
What means everything to me is their trust. It means everything to me. It inspires me to write for them. So when I go to them on the day and I say, listen, this is going to be different, and they look at me and go, when you Christian look at me, or you Brad, and you go to me, okay, and you say, let's go talk, that's everything. And you go, okay. As opposed to, what? You know what I'm saying? And that's everything. That's just gigantic. We were all taking huge risks. It was a high wire act. Every single actor playing a role they had never remotely played. Me doing a movie I had never really done like that. And failure is very exciting and frightening. So it was frightening, but that was also exciting for us to be taking the chance.
One of the funniest things for me always on the set was watching where David was going to hide on a set, because he always likes to be very close to the actors. You know, he wants to be able to feel the atmosphere of the scene. And so literally, you know, he'd be trying to hide under our chairs, and then Linus, the DP, would say, no, David, I see you there. And then he'd be jumping over and jumping under a table somewhere, and finding a spot where he could be, you know, very, very close. And so get a sense of being right there with us throughout everything.
As opposed to a director being in the other room watching a monitor, which is a completely different experience.
Yeah.
I personally have had 2 phases of my filmmaking career, right? I was here with Three Kings in '99, and then I tried to make a film. I'd made very different kinds of films then. I said, let's try an action film. There's funny stories about that I just thought of. But, and then I said, let's make a metaphysical film, which did okay. It didn't succeed like I wanted it to. And then, as Darren Aronofsky said to me when I met him after he made The Wrestler, I said, what happened? You're doing so good. He said, I got my head out of my ass. See, so my head, that can happen to anybody. If your head can go up your ass because you're afraid of failure, because there's pressure. The more movies you make, the more you feel the pressure to do good. So, you know, I kind of lost my way as a storyteller, It's hard to find inspiration if you mean it from your heart. You know, you gotta figure out how to do that. That's a magical process. And I also got divorced, and I had a bipolar son, and I had to figure out his life. That took a lot of energy to find the right school for him and to take care of him and all that stuff. So when I came back, and then I couldn't get a movie made, but I'm a working writer. I work for a living. So Sidney Pollack hired me to write Silver Linings Playbook. I didn't know if I could get the job directing it. In fact, I couldn't. I couldn't get the job directing it. And then I got to make The Fighter, thanks to Mark Wahlberg and to Christian. And then that started to put me into this world that was very intimate and much more from here than from here. The whole thing is from here, and like he said, from the feet up. And the whole thing looked clear to me. And then, you know, Bradley, it just goes from there. So that's this new phase of filmmaking. So that, from a humbled place, I can look in the faces of people and know that's the beautiful part of life. People who have fallen down, or people who are trying to get up, who can't afford to be cynical or negative. My son can't afford it. He taught me I can't. It's a luxury to feel negative. It's a luxury. Because many people, if they go there, the whole thing's they're just going to die. They'll either literally kill themselves or they'll just perish. So I love that the passion in these people, whatever they're going through, remains alive. And that's what his character was all about in Silver Linings Playbook. You know?
I think the thing that resonates with me so much with what David has been telling stories about recently is just the fact that the things that, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but the things that feel like disasters in your life don't turn out to be disasters, you know? That life throws you many curveballs, and things that feel like disasters don't turn out to be that. The things that seem like gifts can turn out to be disastrous, and never to be surprised at how surprised you can be, you know, at life. I think.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true.